What if the one thing you turn on to feel better is actually making you sick? Air conditioning has become the ultimate symbol of comfort. On a blazing summer day, in a stuffy office, or right before bed, it feels like the perfect solution. Most people never think twice about it. Cold air means comfort, and comfort means feeling good. But that assumption has a silent flaw that almost nobody catches. It doesn't hit you all at once. It shows up as a scratchy throat in the morning, a stuffy nose with no clear reason, a cough that just won't quit, or a low-grade exhaustion you can't quite explain. Everyday symptoms that are easy to brush off or blame on something else entirely. But what if the source was right there in the air you breathe inside your home, your car, or your office every single day? That's exactly what you're about to find out. If you've ever woken up with a dry throat or a stuffy nose and had no idea why, drop a comment below. You're definitely not alone. Hit that like button if this is making you think, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Most people never stop to think about what's actually happening inside that machine on the wall. You point the remote, press a button, and cold air starts flowing. It feels instant, effortless, almost magical. But there's a real mechanical process behind that relief, and understanding it changes everything about how you see indoor air quality. Here's the basic idea. Your air conditioner doesn't actually create cold air. What it does is pull the warm air from inside your room, run it across a set of cold coils filled with refrigerant, strip out the heat, and push the now cooled air back into the space. It's a continuous cycle, pulling, cooling, recirculating over and over again, the same air moving through the same system. And that's where things start to get interesting, because that process does something else besides cooling. As warm air passes over those cold coils, moisture condenses. Just like a cold glass of water on a humid day, the inside of your air conditioner gets wet. That moisture builds up in the drain pan, in the ducts across the filters, and a dark, damp environment with limited airflow. That's not just a mechanical inconvenience, that's the perfect condition for something else to grow. The unit itself isn't the villain here. The engineering is actually pretty smart, but the way most people use and maintain their systems creates the exact conditions that turn a comfort appliance into something far more complicated. The air you're breathing right now has been through that system, and what it picks up along the way is what we need to talk about next. There's something that happens every single time your air conditioner runs that most people completely overlook. Beyond the cooling, beyond the circulation, the unit is actively pulling moisture out of the air. That's actually part of how it works. And while that might sound harmless or even helpful on a humid day, the reality is that it creates an indoor environment your body was never designed to handle for hours on end. Your nose, your throat, your eyes, they all depend on moisture to function properly. The mucous membranes lining your airways are your body's first line of defense against dust, allergens, bacteria, and airborne irritants. When the air gets too dry, those membranes dry out too. They crack, they lose their protective function, and suddenly your respiratory system is far more vulnerable than it should be. That's not a theory, that's basic human biology playing out in real time while you sleep. Think about the last time you woke up after a full night with the AC running. Maybe your throat felt scratchy. Maybe your nose was stuffed up for no obvious reason. Maybe your eyes were dry and irritated before you even had your first cup of coffee. You probably blamed it on allergies, or the weather, or just a weird night. But there's a very real chance the air conditioner was the direct cause, and you never made the connection. And here's what makes it even more significant. Dry air doesn't just irritate, it weakens. A respiratory system that's constantly exposed to low humidity, indoor air becomes less effective at filtering out what shouldn't be there, which raises a bigger question. If the air is already compromised just from dryness, what else might be moving through it? Now here's where it gets personal, because everything we just talked about, the dry air, the weakened airways, the increased vulnerability, all of that gets significantly worse when you add one more factor that most people never even think about. Inside your air conditioning unit, sitting right in the path of every single breath of air that gets circulated through your home, there's a filter. And the odds are high that it hasn't been cleaned in a very long time. That filter was designed to catch what shouldn't be floating around your indoor air. Dust, pet dander, pollen, mold spores, fine particles from outside. It traps all of it. But here's the thing nobody talks about. A filter that's never cleaned doesn't just stop working. It becomes a storage unit for everything it's collected. And every time the system kicks on, the airflow pushing through that clogged, contaminated filter stirs everything back up and sends it right back into the room you're living in. You're not breathing filtered air at that point. You're breathing recycled contamination. The same allergens, the same dust, the same microscopic particles cycling through your lungs on repeat, hour after hour, day after day. And because the air feels cool and the room feels comfortable, there's no obvious sign that anything is wrong. That's what makes it so easy to ignore. Most people have never cleaned their AC filter. Some didn't even know it was something you were supposed to do. And even among those who have, very few do it as often as they should. It's one of the most overlooked aspects of indoor air quality, and it's happening in almost every home right now. But a dirty filter is really just the beginning. Remember that moisture we talked about? The condensation that builds up on the coils in the drain pan along the internal components of your air conditioner? That water doesn't just sit there harmlessly. In a dark, enclosed space with limited airflow and organic material from dust and debris, moisture becomes the foundation for something far more serious. Mold and bacteria don't need much to thrive. They just need exactly what the inside of a neglected AC unit provides. Mold spores and bacterial colonies can establish themselves deep inside your system on the evaporator coils, inside the drain lines, across the interior walls of the unit, completely out of sight and completely undetected. There's no smell at first, no visible sign, nothing to alert you that something is growing inside the machine you run every single day. And then the unit turns on, the airflow kicks in, and those spores and microorganisms get launched directly into your breathing space at full force. This isn't a rare or extreme scenario. Studies on indoor air quality consistently show that poorly maintained air conditioning systems are one of the leading sources of mold contamination in residential and commercial spaces. People living or working in those environments often experience chronic respiratory symptoms, persistent fatigue, headaches, and allergy-like reactions, and they spend months or years trying to figure out what's wrong, never once suspecting the unit running quietly on their wall. What makes this so unsettling is the invisibility of it. You can't see spores. You can't smell early-stage bacterial growth. The air feels cool, the room feels normal, and the whole time your lungs are processing something they were never meant to handle. And if you think the risks stop there, what comes next might be the part that surprises you most. Now take everything we've covered so far: the dry air, the contaminated filter, the mold spores, the bacteria, and add one more layer that makes all of it significantly worse. Most of the environments where we use air conditioning are sealed, windows closed, doors shut, the same volume of air cycling through the same space for hours. And in that kind of environment, nothing leaves. Everything just keeps circulating over and over with nowhere to go. Think about where you spend most of your day. Your bedroom at night with the AC running and the windows shut. Your office, where the central air system has been running continuously for years and fresh air exchange is minimal at best. A hotel room you checked into without a second thought. Your car on a long drive with the vents blowing and every window sealed tight. These are all closed-loop environments, and in every single one of them, the air quality depends entirely on what the system is putting back into the space. When there's no fresh air coming in to dilute or replace what's already there, concentrations of allergens, airborne particles, mold spores, and bacteria build up over time. The air gets stale in ways you can't always detect with your nose. Your body starts processing a cocktail of contaminants at levels that wouldn't exist in a naturally ventilated space. And because the temperature feels comfortable, because the environment feels controlled, there's a false sense of safety that keeps most people from ever questioning what they're actually breathing. Indoor air quality in sealed air-conditioned spaces is consistently ranked among the most underestimated health concerns in modern life. And the scary part isn't just what's in the air, it's how long you stay in those environments, without realizing the impact it's having on your body every single day. Here's something important to say clearly, because this conversation isn't about fear, it's about awareness. Air conditioning itself is not the enemy. A well-maintained unit with clean filters, regularly serviced, used in a space that allows for some degree of air exchange is not a health hazard. In fact, in extreme heat, proper cooling can be genuinely life-saving. The technology isn't the problem. The problem is what happens when that technology is neglected, and how few people realize the line between helpful and harmful is thinner than they think. The risks we've been talking about don't appear because someone turned on their AC on a hot afternoon. They build up slowly over weeks and months of continuous use without maintenance, in sealed environments with filters that haven't been touched in years. It's the combination of factors: accumulated contamination, dry recirculated air, zero fresh air exchange, unchecked moisture inside the unit that transforms a comfort appliance into a source of chronic indoor air pollution. And because it happens gradually, most people never connect the dots. A clean system changes everything. Regular filter cleaning, periodic professional servicing, occasional ventilation to allow fresh air in. These aren't complicated steps, but they make a fundamental difference in what your respiratory system is exposed to every single day. The gap between a safe air-conditioned environment and a harmful one often comes down to nothing more than consistent basic care that most households simply don't prioritize. So the next time you reach for that remote and feel the cool air wash over you, remember this: the problem was never the cold. It's what's circulating in the air while you think you're protected. And knowing that changes how you look at every room, every unit, every breath you take in a closed, air-conditioned space. You just learned something that most people go their entire lives without stopping to think about: dry air weakening your airways, dirty filters recirculating allergens, mold and bacteria growing silently inside the unit, sealed spaces trapping everything with nowhere to go. This wasn't just a video about air conditioning, it was about paying attention to the invisible things that affect your health every single day. If you made it this far, this channel was made for you. We cover exactly these kinds of topics, the everyday things hiding in plain sight that nobody talks about but everyone needs to know. Subscribe right now so you never miss a video like this one. And if something here resonated with you, drop the word "aware" in the comments. It helps more than you know. If this video added value to your life, leave a like before you go. And don't stop here. The next video is already on your screen, and it's just as eye-opening as this one.